When to arrive at a dinner party. As a Dane, be sure to come early. Between 30 and 5 minutes should do just fine. But be careful not to catch the host in a delicate situation.
Hi!
As a Slovenian, be sure to be on time and wait for the host to invite you in. When in France, there is no need to be on time, but do remember to bring lots of red wine.
Oh, bonjour! Bonjour! Oh.
As an Ecuadorian, time is irrelevant. The important thing is that you show up. How to greet. The first time you greet someone in Denmark, you do it with a handshake. From now on, feel free to give a hug. In Slovenia, you greet with a simple hand gesture. It's important not to get too close to each other. From now on, you give a handshake. In France and Ecuador, it's polite to give a kiss on the cheek. The French are a bit more excited about the kissing though. What's okay to talk about? When at a dinner party, there are certain topics you should and should not talk about. In Denmark, for example, it's totally acceptable to talk openly about sex. In Slovenia, try to start a conversation by talking about how useless your local politician is. In Ecuador, it's all about the gossip. Try to start a conversation involving the juiciest gossip from around your city. Just like there are things you should talk about, there are also some things that you definitely should not bring up in a social situation. In Denmark, for example, don't start telling people about your political views. It just creates an awkward situation. The subject of sex is quite taboo in both Slovenia, France and Ecuador. How drunk is it acceptable to become? In Denmark and Slovenia, there is no upper limit to how much you can drink. You can simply get as drunk and embarrassing as you want to. In France, it's allowed to have a couple of drinks. But do be careful with drinking too much. If you can't walk in a straight line, it means you had too much and need to go home. In Ecuador, there is no such thing as drinking too much. You simply just start a party machine that cannot be stopped. How to pay after a dinner.
Thank you so much for this nice evening and dinner. That was so nice. That was.
Yes, yeah. Just before you go, if you can all mobile pay me 22.5 kroner, that'd be wonderful. I've made the calculations right here. Don't worry.
Oh, what? What we have to pay for the dinner that you invited us to?
Yes, of course. You don't have mobile pay? What?
As seen in this clip, Denmark separates itself from the rest of the world. In the rest of the world, it's common that when you are invited for a dinner, that you don't have to pay for yourself. However, in Denmark, everybody has to pay. How to flirt. In Denmark and Slovenia, you don't really flirt with someone before you've had quite a few drinks.
Do you want something to drink?
this clip you'll see a Dane try to flirt after getting a couple of drinks. Unfortunately, we overdo it once in a while.
Hello, beautiful girl. Have I ever told you that you're so beautiful and I just really want to beautiful you? All the very beautiful.
In France, you flirt as soon as you see someone you like. This clip is an example from a local cafe in Paris.
Oh, bonjour. Je regarde l'art, France, viva, bonjour, Napoleon.
The Ecuadorians flirt a bit more aggressively. Once they set their eyes on something that they want, there is no stopping them.
Oh, mamacita, caliente, tequila, salsa, corazón. Oh, ¿cómo estás?
The Danes are not so big on customer service. Getting a bartender's attention can therefore be a bit tricky.
Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah.
Like to order a drink?
Blah blah blah.
In France, Slovenia and Ecuador, the bartenders works on tips and are therefore a bit more customer service minded.
Oh, what can I help you with? Do you want a little taste of something?
Yeah, that would be very nice. A glass of champagne.
Yes, some local. What do you think?
In Slovenia, France and Ecuador, talking to your boss isn't fun. The hierarchy is clear and you are normally very nervous.
Yes. Yes, come in.
Hi, boss. You wanted to see me?
Yes, please have a seat.
Okay, thank you.
The Danes have a bit more laid-back relationship with their bosses normally. It's more like talking to a friend.
Come in.
Hvad så, chef? Hvad sker der alligevel? Hej.
How to use public transport. When using public transport in Denmark, remember to always sit as far away from anybody else and only talk to somebody else if absolutely necessary. Taking the bus in Slovenia is much like in Denmark, but do remember to do as the locals and don't pay for a ticket. When in France, remember that when you use public transportation, the French drive quite freely and doesn't always respect traffic regulation. Taking the bus in Ecuador can be a quite nice experience. They are not always on time. As a matter of fact, you have to stand by the road and just wait for it. But once it arrives with music, laughter, and people talk to each other.